Bruins get a tough loss here against the Canucks, but this game kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. It's been very easy to see that this team has turned it around under Joe Sacco, for the time being at least, and just looking at it so far this season, that we've been able to see that this team is different from where we started. However, we need to get the scoring back going. We need to get the scoring back going. That is our really only issue that I saw in this game. McAvoy, yes, he's also still struggling a bit. I don't want to say too much bad stuff, but that was a horrible turnover at the end of the game. I won't deny that, but we need the scoring back. The scoring is going to be a massive part of turning this team around, and we just need to get it off. Once we get out of the rhythm of not scoring, we're going to be in good shape. We're going to be in very, very, very good shape. But I want to talk about this game. I want to talk about what kind of implications this game actually had, to this team. Because I think if this game was anything to look at, if there was any implications that came from this game, is that we need to trade for someone who can score. We need to trade for another top six forward. I think everything else was good. I liked everything else in this game, but the way that we looked at this game, the way we saw this team work, they can do everything except score. That is one thing. And I will get to the trade parts later on. I seen someone say in the chat just that they think the Bruins are going to get Kreider. I don't know for certain, but I would certainly love it. And I think a lot of Bruins fans would. It'd be very hard to be able to say yes or no right now, because it will depend on the Rangers. It will depend on what they're looking for. And I think the Bruins have those pieces, such as, Zacha, Geeky, Coyle, Carlos, some of those guys just to be named of those who will be traded, or on the list to be traded. But right now, I'm going to say maybe. Just maybe, but I'm going to pull up some screenshots from the game here, and let's look at this one here first. So when you're looking at the game stats, obviously this is what we're looking at. This is the very, very big bounce back game. 33 shots, 15 shots for the Canucks, 33 for us. Kevin Lankin stood on his head. I got to give him every bit of props that he had in this game. He played incredible, played very, very good. I think he has 8 road wins this season, like 8 in a row or something. So, Kevin Lankin is playing on a high right now, and I think that's one thing that the Bruins kind of got caught up in. It's not an immediate thing, but Kevin, especially a goalie's mentality when they're playing well, when the team is playing well in front of them, they're just going to play well regardless, no matter what. It's just kind of that, back of the mind stuff. But the Bruins have needed to take this mentality in the next game as well. Next game against the Islanders, I believe, and that will be a big game to be able to see what this team can actually do. Because as you said, Nick, this team played phenomenal today, phenomenal. And I'm not gonna get too mad about the loss there. Sorry, I'm not gonna get too mad about this loss, because the way that we've seen this team transform over the past week since the firing of Jim Montgomery and now Joe Sacco taking over, even though we can't score, everything feels good. Everything seems to be right except the scoring. And, as I mentioned, that's one thing that we're going to have to just wait and happen. We need wait to see whether that's a trade that's going to come along, whether that's, a revamp of the power play just to get a goal going there and sparking the offense on the uneven strength. There's so many things that this team can do to be able to get back to this momentum of just scoring and becoming the team that everybody hates to play against. Yeah, that's one question I have as well, and I'm hoping that someone will ask Joe Sacco this in the post-game interviews, and I will have those here as well if we do get them while I am live. I'm not going to be live for too long, but I wanted to go live after this game because very, very happy with the way this team performed. However, I'm going to keep you guys updated and see if we have anything about the power play needing to be changed, because we need to get something. We need to get something changed. I don't know what it is. It seems like it should work, but it hasn't. Maybe try something that, just don't seem like it would ever work, and maybe something could click. Something different. If you guys have any propositions for the power play, throw them in the chat. I want to know what some of you guys think as well. We're literally 3 top 6 guys short of doing anything. Yeah, we're still missing those key pieces. And that's what I'm going to get to in a little bit for those who just got in. A few trades that we've mentioned, and I mentioned Chris Kreider a bit already and in last video, so check that out if you want to get a little insight on that. But that's a pretty interesting one as well, because it'll all depend on the situations. But it almost seems like they need to make a move, whether that is bring Merkulov back up, bring Lysell up, bring Poitras back up, someone just to try something new, because there's some players that can come in and out of this lineup, and I think it could only get better. You know, I really don't see any negatives of bringing up Poitras, Merkulov, Lysell, really anybody to slot into this lineup. So just try and get something going. Try and get some going in the power play, any point, just to get a goal. And we're waiting for that. And I think there's no surprise that it's just a matter of needing to get it done before. And I'm gonna have another screenshot here, and I seen someone put this in here earlier. The last 3 seasons, the Bruins have been shut out 10 times. 4 of them have come in the first 23 games of this season. And, you know, scoring 1 goal in each of the first 3 games of Joe Sacco's tenure as head coach. It just won't do. You know, the team is playing so well. This could have been another win here tonight, going back to back to back, and just such simple things as going to get that goal. Going to get 1 goal. And, of course, had to be DeBrusk scores against us. You know, I'm not mad about that. That's one thing that I think I expected, honestly, coming into this game. I would have thought it would have been Heinen and DeBrusk for this game, but overall, it's just really the goal scoring, and that's the big part of it. Will Sweeney do anything? Guy's a complete milk bag. You know, it's interesting. I think that, and this is what I mentioned in our video about Kreider, that if he wants to keep his job, if he wants to for sure be able to have at least a chance of keeping his job, because right now it's not looking so good for him going into this offseason, but if he wants a chance, he needs to make a bold trade and go out, whether that is trade Zacha, whether that is trade Geeky, whether that is trade Coyle, whether that's trade Carlo, you know, any of those 4 guys I mentioned a minute ago, and just then as well. Trade him for someone who you know is a goal scorer. You don't need to have someone super young, a guy like Brock Nelson, a guy like Chris Kreider, a guy like Mikael Granlund, who I may be talking about later. Not going to spoil anything, but you know, someone like that who's been shown that they can go out, score goals at a consistent pace. Like, Kreider's 19 games played this season and 9 goals. Like, if that's not a goal scorer, I don't know what is. Oh yeah, it would not have surprised me if DeBrusk and Heinen went and got 3 each. Like, it's just the way the hockey works. As soon as you leave the team, come back and play them the first time, you're going to absolutely dog walk them. That is true, Joshua. You know, that could be the case as well. And I think that he's really starting it off well. He's definitely seemed to put a new mentality into this team. I know, I think that it's still going to take a little bit just to kind of get his coaching style in, I guess you can call it like the mainframe or whatever for this team, and really get it back under his full, you know, control. I think they still have a little bit of that Jim Montgomery left there, but it's been just the only thing is the goal scoring. Yeah, exactly. And the way our season's been also, it was just, that was just bound to happen. Yeah, no, you're right, Ian. It's defensively was good. Goaltending was good as well as this game. Obviously, just an unlucky goal for Swayman, but the shots that he saved were ones that needed to be saved. They were all pretty quality chances by the Canucks. But the offense is really the thing that needs to be fixed, and special teams. I'll say that as well on the power play, because the power play was so bad. You know, I think the team would have been better off if we had gone into this game and just win even strength the entire game. You know, having the power play, it seemed like they didn't have it set up yet. Now, that also means Joe Sacco was the head of the power play and penalty kill before, I believe. I knew he's 1, maybe 2. I can't recall off the top of my head right now, but, you know, I think it's going to be a transition as well to Chris Kelly getting his kind of input into this and everything, and kind of just transitioning into something that is going to work. Something that we're going to try and experiment with, because there's still lots of time left. We're only 3 games into Joe Sacco's head coaching tenure. So I think there's a lot of time left to be able to kind of get this into a rhythm. And yes, exactly. You need to stop forcing to Pastrnak, and I know this team wants him to get a goal, kind of get out of that slump, and that's a good way to bring it up here right now. These are Pasternak's games in November, only 2 goals. really just can't get anything going. It's not even skill-wise or anything. It's just so unlucky how Pastrnak has been. The bounces and everything has not worked in his favor. But they got to stop forcing it to him because there are so many talented goal scorers on this team, but everybody is just cold right now. And yeah, Ryan, I was thinking about that as well, not gonna lie. You know, just why not try something? You know, put Zadorov in front of the net. You know, if you have, just say McAvoy, who's been struggling lately, and Pastrnak on the point, just put Zadorov in front of the net on the wing. Have him sit there and don't have him move. Just play a diamond, playing a house around him, whatever you want to call it, or whatever formation they choose, an umbrella. They can do many options if Zadorov's in front of the net, because no goalies are really as tall as Zadorov in this league at this point. There are a few, but those are pretty hard to come by, and especially Lankinen, who's not the tallest goalie. If you just put Zadorov in front of him, he's not seeing anything coming towards him. Now, the Canucks in this game were also very, very good at blocking the puck. That's their team is kind of structured around. But there were so many shots that had 2 or 3 opportunities off a rebound. A block shot coming off to the side. It missed the net, but not like in a bad way, kind of going behind, popping out the other side. There's a lot of options that could have worked. They need to work some of those into it at some point. Try it. Yes, they do need a guy that can score, and that's why I'm going to touch on this here really quick as well, while we're on the topic. This is just one. This is not the screenshot. This is the screenshot here. Mikael Granlund is one of them. I didn't do a video on Mikael Granlund, so I kind of want to put a screenshot in here for him. But Mikael Granlund is someone who has been on the market lately. 9 goals, 24 points in 23 games for the Sharks. What? Is that real? He's 20. No. He don't have 24 points this year for the San Jose Sharks. I didn't read this before, not going to lie. I just seen Mikael Granlund, and he was on a trade article. Give me a moment. If he's point per game with the Sharks, why is he not a Boston Bruin at this very moment? If someone could answer for that for me. He does have 24 points in 23 games. Wow. Okay, so the Boston Bruins need to trade for Mikael Granlund right now. This moment. His cap hit, I don't believe is too much. It's $5 million. So I'm considering $5 million as not too much, just in this case, because we know the cap's going up. And considering the guys that we would have to move, whether that be Geeky, Zacha, Coyle, or Carlo, that would pretty much be like a 1-for-1 or like a very similar contract to be able to deal. That's why I'm considering the $5 million not too much. Now, if it wasn't any of those guys that were to be traded, wouldn't likely be able to do that so easy. But at $5 million, 9 goals, 24 points in 23 games for the Sharks, I do not hesitate to go out and try and get Mikael Granlund. That's a very good insight, and I will have a video on that now at some point, because I did not realize that. So you guys are going to get the early taste in it. And now this is all a matter of if Sweeney does this. If Sweeney at least even considers to try and make a move, whether or not something like that happens, we need to make a move for a goal scorer. Whether or not that's for a rental for this 1 year, or just to get someone going right now. Something has to be done. Yeah, Brian, that's where Mikael Granlund comes into play, and that's kind of what was mentioned here. But with those stats in San Jose, with some very young, talented line mates as well, good point, Alexi. Still, 12 goals is not a bad look in 23 games for the Sharks. And as you did mention, a very good, young, talented team. And I can't actually check right now who he's playing with, because I don't know for sure, but I know they have a very talented young team. Is he injured? He is injured. I don't know who he played with before, but I mean, the Sharks are not the greatest, but they got a good young talented offense. But yeah, like that's what I mean. Like a move like Granlund, a move like, you know, someone else, and with the term and everything like that, we can go retain on really any of these players, hopefully. Not for the Bruins side of things, but to get them a bit cheaper, even if that was the case, throw in a little pick. We got quite a few over the next few years as well, which is very rare for Boston. So that's what my mind kind of tells me as well, is what Don Sweeney is planning on doing, is using those picks in drafts instead. But it's just a matter of what he wants to do, and that's what I don't feel confident about. So what we're looking at for, at least Brian, for this, is what kind of the names we've seen for the Bruins be thrown around, where Carlo, Charlie Coyle, not McAvoy, sorry, Geeky, and Zacha. Those four really are the names that have been kind of thrown around as possibilities of being traded. I've also seen Elias Lindholm. I don't know about that because he's really one of the players that was getting stuff going early on, and he's still pretty consistent. However, I would say 4, maybe 5 of those names are ones that could be thrown around. None of them are super old. All of them have big potential, but just kind of in a rut right now. So a lot of teams I don't think would be hesitant to trade for them. Their cap is a bit higher, but in that circumstance, for a guy like Granlund, who's making $5 million, a guy like Kreider, who's making upwards of that, and so on and so forth, Brock Nelson, all of that kind of style, Trevor Zegras, those names are all making around that same kind of contract. So that's why I think the Bruins could easily kind of work this into something a lot easier than what it may seem. But it would all depend on kind of the return requested by the other team, any stipulations like that, and all of that kind of instances, and how they feel about those named players. Because I think that, those names as well that I just mentioned on other teams are also still kind of struggling with their own. Well, obviously, not Granlund, as we just found out, but those players kind of looking for a new area. And 9 goals in 19 games for Kreider is one of those ones that is very, very good, but the Rangers need better. And the Rangers' recent struggles have kind of put them into a situation where they want to move him, which I don't understand why. And, I guess it's kind of the same as what we're feeling with those players. But Chris Kreider has been a major part of that team for a long time. 2 30-goal seasons in the last 2 seasons, a 50 before that, very, very fast, and just really been for this team for so long. And a lot of Rangers fans not happy to see him in that list. But if that's what their management is planning and they're looking to trade him, I think that a lot of people and a lot of teams are going to be very surprised by the price that they could pay for a Chris Kreider. Because I really don't think they're overvaluing him. I think that they're kind of undervaluing him and might trade him if they do end up trading him for very little, which is interesting. What about getting DeBrusk back? I would love it, but I think the Canucks are committed to him. I think his goal tonight tied him up with 3 or 4 players for the top in Vancouver. That's fair enough. If the Leafs can't beat us if we don't make the playoffs. Freddie and McAvoy for Trouba and Chris Kreider. That would be an interesting one. I don't think they move Charlie McAvoy, though. I think that's one of the only untouchables this team has, unless they get a significant return for him. And I just don't think teams are going to do that, especially with the way he's been struggling a bit lately. I don't think that we're going to see kind of that move, but it would certainly be something to kind of look at maybe in the offseason. And that's true, Peter, as well, that they don't have the greatest farm system right now. They don't have the greatest depth. They have a lot of good players who could be in the NHL right now, but it's only because we know how good they can be by watching them every single day in and out, hearing about them from the Bruins and whatnot, but they're really not massive names other than Poitras, Merkulov, Lysell, and that's really it. But we know how good Riley Duran is. We know how good John Farinacci is. Like, a lot of guys like that certainly could be in that name of how good they could be for the Bruins, but other teams are not going to recognize that. Trading Zadorov. There was a report from Elliot Friedman. Now, he says that this is not anything imminent. This is not anything coming up, but he said it would make sense for the Bruins and the Canucks to make a trade once again for Zadorov to get him back to Vancouver. But I don't understand, and I don't really know what would go down to make that happen. I don't really know what we would get in return. I don't really know how much value he has at the moment. I can kind of take a guess, but like, he's not a guy that you really want to go after unless you're looking for solely physicality. He's okay on defense at times, but we want to see better. We want to see a bit more out of him, and it's either that's a matter of time until it happens or it never will. And I think a lot of teams are thinking that he never will. And I don't think that the Canucks would have let him walk either if they didn't want to keep him. So that's why I'm thinking the Canucks no, but I think Zadorov may be in play. Yeah, exactly. I don't think anybody wants him, though. I think that's the part that we're kind of stuck with. And especially what you said, Jeff, there as well. The contract is not good for him at all. I have a first quote of the night from Charlie McAvoy. He says, "The dam is going to break at some point. Just hope it's soon." It needs to be soon. I don't want to hope it's soon. It needs to be soon because this is exciting hockey that we're playing. The team knows that. I think the management knows that under new management or under new staff, I guess we should say. They're coming out playing very, very well. And if we get 1 goal and if we get 2 goals, I then start to think it just kind of floods in. I really think that's what's going to happen or bound to happen when it does. Zadorov to Chicago for Taylor Hall would be interesting as well because you never know. Zadorov has been in Chicago before. They may be looking for another kind of big defenseman. Their defense is already pretty well sized and they're pretty physical, but Taylor Hall is kind of looking for a new location as well. That's very interesting. I would like to see that. Kind of how it goes further. Kind of 2 players that don't really fit well, I guess. But, yeah, Hall needs to stay healthy. That's just one thing. I think he was injured earlier when we were looking at a trade for him a couple weeks ago. But still, that's a big risk there for health. But I wouldn't mind if it was Zadorov. And Kreider as well, Steven. Yeah, Kreider's one that I'm really pushing for. I would really like to see Chris Kreider with the Bruins, although the contract's a bit high, so it would have to be one of those guys I mentioned about trading. He's going to be 37. How old is he going to be when that contract expires? It was in yesterday's video, if you want to go check that out. I can't remember exactly what it is right now off the top of my head. But it made a lot of sense when you're trading one of those top 4 to 5 guys that the Bruins have available to trade right now. And of course, for those who were not here earlier, this one here from an article that I was looking at before. Don't know why it's not switching over. There we go. Mikael Granlund. For those who don't know, Mikael Granlund has 24 points in 23 games this season with the Sharks and 12 goals. And he's on the trade block, reportedly. I don't know for sure. But this could be a very interesting one if we're looking for solely goal scoring and offensive ability. You know, Granlund's not the greatest on defense and whatnot like that. But you don't get Mikael Granlund, for things like defense. Like one of the first Michigan goals in the NHL. I don't care if he does that or not. I just want to see the puck in the back of the net. And I think that he could be one of the guys to do it. So I do think that he's certainly someone to keep an eye on for this. What would the Bruins pay for Mitch Marner on July 1st, 2025? That's interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of talks about Mitch Marner on the Bruins. However, I don't know if something like that would happen. First of all, from a standpoint from Mitch Marner of playing against the Bruins, but also I don't know if the Bruins would want to go actively after Mitch Marner and kind of, put themselves in a very big predicament in cap space for like the foreseeable future. And we know that's supposed to go up quite a bit over the next few years, but still, he's probably going to be making certainly over 10, maybe even over 11, maybe over 12. And I think that having that contract alongside Pastrnak, alongside McAvoy, I think it would be pretty tough to be able to kind of hold that for the foreseeable future. Kreider with Marchand and Lindholm. I like the sound of that line. 2 very gritty wingers, and Lindholm, who has been playing better as of late, but still not to the level we want to see. I don't hate that. Actually, anyone minus Pasta, Marchand, Lindholm, McAvoy, and the goalies. I'm in the same boat. Realistically, I'm in the same boat. There's a few others maybe I would sprinkle in. Like, I like the 4th line still. Kastelik's one of these guys that will always get the energy going on the ice. The 4th line, even though it's not playing as good as it was earlier on in the season, I like the way it looks still. I think it's a very perfect line for what we're seeing right now. And just kind of things like that needs to stay the same, but we just need that goal-scoring ability. Yeah, that's a big thing too, Peter. Like, this is here right now in his article. However, I don't know if he's actively being shopped by the Sharks. I think that they probably want to get someone like quite a bit younger, which the Bruins probably wouldn't be willing to do. But it's still an interesting one to kind of take a look at for the future. Or trade Marchand. That would make a big impact to the team. It would certainly make a big impact to the team. That's one that we've been kind of speculating as well. You know, there was a report from someone I had a few videos ago about Marchand potentially being shopped and being on. It was the Chris Johnson. There's a video on my channel of Chris Johnson in the recent days with Chris Johnson and Marchand in the thumbnail. That video, I went and discussed what it was, like the report that they're on the TSN Big Ten trade board. Seeing Marchand on that is kind of crazy, and I don't think that's going to be the most ideal result for the Boston Bruins, but I don't doubt it. Like, I wouldn't, well, I should say I doubt it, but I don't count it out of their plans. Yes, like, I don't think they should do it, but I think that if this team really sinks, they would probably ask him. But I still don't think that that's going to happen. I think that the beginning of Joe Sacco's tenure is really a good one, and I think that we want to see this continue. I do have another screenshot here. I don't know what it is, though. Yeah, okay. I'll pull this up again for the little bit while we're talking about this still. Yeah, this game was still a good one, and I'm not going to be I'm not mad about this game. For those who just joined, we discussed the game a bit earlier on in this video before we kind of got into the trade topic, and looking at this team here in this game, the only thing, and that was the only thing we were lacking, is offensive ability on power play and goal scoring. And I'm going to call offensive ability the same thing on the power play. But goal scoring for the offense was really the only thing. The offensive pressure was absolutely fantastic in this game. Kevin Lankin has stood on his head, and I'll say it again. Got to give him his props. Kevin Lankin's a very good goalie, a very underrated goalie. I think that with Thatcher Demko out, he's kind of, people are realizing how good he is. But the way that we've seen this team play in this game would be absolutely perfect if we could score some goals. The pressure that we had in this game with 33 shots, 215 against Vancouver, if we could score on as many of the shots that should have gone in this game would have been 8-2 for the Bruins. There were so many opportunities where we saw this team put the puck in the exact right location, just either fan on it, put it wide, anything, just simple things like that could be cleaned up so easy. That's what we're missing. You know, that's what I mean. The offensive ability, goal scoring, same thing. But that's one thing that the Bruins have kind of been linked to trades because of this, just because of the whole hope, I guess, that Joe Sacco would turn around. And so far, it seems like it has been. The goalies have been great for the past few games. I'll say that as well. It's just they're not getting any help from the offense. And yeah, I mean, the goalies are really stepping up for Vancouver this year, I got to say. And they look good. You know, I want to give props where props are due, especially being a goalie myself. It's, you know, seeing a goalie stand on his head, it's so nice to see, even though if it's against your own team. Still. Yeah, like, that's what I mean. Like, especially at the end of the game there, when that last minute, when we called the timeout, got down the own, goalie pulled, in 36 seconds, there were so many opportunities for goals. I was standing up, and, you know, we know how that gets at the end of the game, standing up, getting ready for everything, but I was up ready to hop in myself. That's how you want to be able to watch a game. That's how you know your team is playing good. But it's just a matter of those sticks putting that puck in the back of the net. And that's it. They do need to make a big hockey trade, and I think that's really what they're lacking. You know, even if it's not for a goal scorer, and I'll say, whether it's, you know, just trading, for example, I'm not saying anything is right there like this, but you trade Zadorov, you trade someone that you probably didn't expect. That right there is going to get this team really kind of perked up just thinking about what could happen. They could be traded, whatever like this. Someone that could just make a spark somewhere. Someone that can lay the big hit, but still get into defense, unlike Zadorov. Like, someone who can be able to just work the wall, work the puck, and kind of get someone open at any point. Something like that will be on the list for the Bruins after every single game. And I think that if we see this tomorrow against the Islanders as well, if we see this type of game where we lose 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, whatever like that, I think every game like that will be closer and closer to a trade for any of the guys I've made videos on, Granlund, kind of anybody in that realm that has been at least linked to a trade. The Bruins are going to be involved in something like that, talking about that. Yeah, Lindholm, yeah. It would have depended, yeah, Ryan there, it would have depended if it would have counted or not, but Lindholm's goal or shot should have gone in. Should have gone in. Steven, I think that we're going to have a look at quite a few coaches. I think that the Bruins are really open to anything, but I think that Joe Sacco is going to certainly make an impact here on this team. And if he makes a very positive impact, like if we turn this season completely around, they may choose to stick with him for maybe a year or two more. Because I know that there are a few teams that we're kind of looking at other coaches. You know, we see the Blues fire their coach to go after Jim Montgomery immediately. There's a lot of teams like that, and I think the Bruins are kind of waiting for Mike Sullivan, which was an interesting one as well. I'm not done with Coyle and Frederic by this point. I thought Merkelov's playmaking could have brought them back to life, but I guess that's not happening now. There's still a lot of time that I think the Bruins can make some moves, and I hope that they make something after next game. Maybe, I wouldn't say before at this point, but maybe after next game they go after, or not go after, call up someone. Just, you know, do something to make a little spark back in this lineup. Now, Poitras, I think, could be a great one of this. I'd like to see him under the new coaching. Lysell could be another one as well. The team's offense this game could have absolutely used a Lysell or a Poitras or a Merkelov. Like, any of those guys could have played super, super good in this exact system tonight, and I don't see this stopping anytime soon with Sacco. Ian, I think it's every single time. I think every sport, like no matter what team you're a fan of, in any sport, you trade a guy or get rid of a guy to a team, the first time that he comes back, he's going to have the game of his life against his former team. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a curse that they put on teams after someone's moved, but every single time, I think with no hesitation, that happens. Every single time. True. You know, we weren't gonna win this game because we need at least 2 goals. At least. But that shot should have gone in. If we could actually put the puck in the back of the net. Tyler Johnson as well. Someone that I would like to see step it up a bit. Step it up just the tiniest bit. And, you know, once everything, like I'm sure there's an injury there. I believe I can have a look and see. If he has a return or whatnot, like a solid go ahead, but I like Tyler Johnson's potential is still there so high. Like I want to see 4 or 5 goals, not even 3. Meteoroid, we want to go up to 5 or 6. That's what we need to see from this team. Realistic options for getting Chris Kreider. Okay, so yeah, I'll go over this again as well for those who are not here. Kind of go over the trade bit as well. Looking at the trades, looking at this game realistically led up to where we are now, or the last few games, and continuing to. This game is going to show that a trade is going to be made for either, a goal scorer like Chris Kreider, Mikael Granlund, someone like that, that is going to be in the realm of being able to boost this team. And I think that every single passing by game that we end up like this, Don Sweeney's kind of getting pushed in that position more to make a trade. And I've mentioned Brock Nelson, Trevor Zegras, who I don't know about, but for those kind of players, we would have to either trade Coyle, Trent Frederic, Zacha, Geeky, the few other names I've mentioned. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but those guys who have the contracts around $3 to $5 million. That way you can be able to trade for those guys kind of one for one, or kind of package them up so that the Bruins cap does not get hurt more by adding these players whose cap space is quite high. So, for example, Chris Kreider's is around 6.5, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can get it though. And that way I'll be able to put it into, 6.5 for 7 years. And he's going to be 36 by the time that is up, and he's in year 5 of 7 right now. So 3 years left, that's 6.5. Being able to trade a guy like Zacha and Geeky, or Zacha or Geeky, or whatever, that will be able to put them in the realm where they can absolutely add Chris Kreider for basically free cap. Now, they would probably have to give up a bit more than just that to be able to get Chris Kreider. We still don't know, for those asking, we don't know what the Rangers are looking for. All we know is that they're listening to trades for them, and they're kind of going out of the way and looking for a spark to change something because of their recent struggles. So the trades that they would be making would be one or, probably all of those guys at some point, maybe depending on what they do and depending how kind of desperate they get into the goal scoring situation. But they have the ability to make those trades and work those into this lineup now, especially with a lot of teams probably looking to add NHL-ready players, which are the guys I've mentioned. The Bruins have some of these younger guys if they want to give up multiple in a trade for Chris Kreider. Just say you trade Zacha, Trent Frederic, and a second for Chris Kreider. Not saying it's a trade, not saying there's anything even close to what they want, or if that's too much, or whatever. But being able to do those two players, that means you can either call up Merkelov, call up Lysell, call up Poitras, and have them in this lineup for, to fill that hole that they're missing from a second player. So there are many options that they can do, and I think that's what they want to look at, what they're trying to do. And I think that's where the trades come in to play, for those asking. That was a bit of a rant, but that's what it really kind of makes sense to me. And yeah, okay, so here's on that kind of topic as well, Johnny. The way that the other teams are going to have to look at those players is going to be teams that are playoff bound. And I think that if they want to make these types of trades before the deadline, they're going to have to do it for some teams that are really making the push. They might not be in the playoffs right now, but making the push for one and knowing that they can get there with just a few more additions. And then that way, although you might not get what you want in return, but it would be able to get rid of those players that way, maybe get some prospect, maybe get some picks to be able to turn into another trade like that. So it wouldn't be easy. The management, as you mentioned, kind of dug themselves into a hole with the multi-year deals and everything, but the way that it kind of plays out and the way it could work seems to be possible of working. Seems to be that way. Wotherspoon, I'm very high on Wotherspoon still. Carlo, I think is an option to get traded. There are a lot of things that the Bruins didn't do best, didn't do great, I guess we could say, but I think that there's still many opportunities for trades on this that we haven't even spoken about yet. More players whose names are going to be thrown out there. So much stuff. So much stuff that it's only a matter of time until we actually go ahead and see. And on top of those as well, so I'll kind of go over those again. Zegras, Brock Nelson, Mikael Granlund, Chris Kreider. Those are really the top ones right now. We've seen some more, but those are the ones I actually find credible from like credible people. Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnson, those types of guys. But there's still a lot of people that are going to be getting put onto that list as time goes by and as we get closer to the deadline. And kind of when teams are filling out their board for what they're planning to do for the offseason, if they're going to sell, if they're going to buy and whatnot. My number one guy to trade for. Okay, I'm going to do two options. I think one to unrealistic option, or realistic option, but an option that it would be probably a bit tougher than the rest, would be Kreider. 6.5 for 3 years. I think he's super good, though, still. He has no signs of slowing down. 30 goals the past 2 seasons, 50 in the one before. Still a talented player. And I think that if the Rangers continue to kind of point his name up there and want to trade him, as I mentioned, it's going to be a lot cheaper than a lot of people are going to think. And I hope that is the case. And I can't confirm it. I wish I could, but I can't confirm it. That's probably the one I would go after or would like to see like that. The cheapest option, however, I think probably would be Brock Nelson. And I think Brock Nelson still is a great addition on the offense. Still a bit on the older side of things, which the Bruins probably wouldn't like too much. The older-ish side of things, but Chris Kreider's the happy medium. But Brock Nelson, I would also not complain with. It's like realistically, I don't care if it's someone who has played 3 games and has 7 goals. Trade for him. You just need someone who can put the puck in the back of the net to get the team going. Yeah, my doubts, I'm doubting that they're trading Kreider. I don't think they're going to. I think that they're just putting the name out there to kind of shock some kind of players into playing better, or they will be traded if they're putting those names out there. But if they do, hoping for it. When is the trade deadline? The trade deadline is March 8th. I believe March 8th. Let me see. March 7th. Sorry. March 7th. So there's still a lot of time. And I hope the Bruins make a move before that because they need to. But the way that this team right now has been playing, I'll say it again, playing very good. They just need to score goals. And I mean, that's just the game of hockey. But for the way that the Bruins have played past few games, don't seem as easy as it sounds. 3 7th-rounders for McDavid. I absolutely would do that right now. Let's go. I'll sign the papers. Give me the papers. I will sign them. if that could happen. All right, but that will probably do it for the stream. Kind of wanted to go over kind of what we saw this game, as I mentioned as well. The trade updates from the players that we've been talking about, the trade updates from the Bruins side of things and other teams. So I will have more videos about the trades and everything as well as kind of the days and weeks go on. But I felt like this was a good time to pop in on the stream, talk about this game, and really show what this team now looks like with Jim Montgomery gone and what moves they could make that could make this team back to what we hoped. I don't think it's going to be too much. I agree, Jaden. That is a big thing that the culture, now it's really just kind of a different team when you look at it that way. I completely agree with that. And hopefully now, with Joe Sacco, it's kind of trending back to, or trending to the new culture still, but keeping away the old one. And kind of that kind of mentality to work with what they have. And just think of it as a brand new season now with Jim Montgomery gone. But this were a wild card situation, aren't they? Wild card 1. They probably are, because they heated up a bit as well and everything. I don't know the exact standings right now, especially after this game, but I don't know. But they shouldn't be far off. But we got to just hope for a big time move to be able to push us in to the playoffs for sure. So I do appreciate all of you guys for being here. Remember, hit the like button, hit the sub button as well. If you do want to stay up to date with all of the Bruins news, I'm going to have another kind of post-game video on this, kind of going over the same thing here for those who didn't get to the stream, kind of going over the different team that we saw. And I'll have some more videos on really any updates that we see the Bruins name of trade in. I got to do it because we know this team needs a spark, and whoever that may be could be that spark. But like I said, I do appreciate all of you guys for being here. And if you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I appreciate all you guys. So I'll be trying to go live after the next few games as well. So be sure to tune back in. I want to get some of these done, especially with this team heating up and looking good. It's looking very, very good. So we can't do it every night, but we'll try to after most games at least. So like I said, I do appreciate all you guys. Thank you for watching. See you later.